University of Otago Professor David Gerrard has had an insight into sports medicine from a variety of angles. That includes as an Olympic swimmer, as an academic in the sports medicine area, and as Commonwealth Games and Olympic team doctor. He gave his inaugural professorial lecture yesterday on the subject of bringing medicine to modern gladiators, and he joins us now. Good evening.
Good evening, Vera.
Now, you've been involved in top-level sport in the 1960s. How has sports medicine changed since that time?
Well, quite dramatically. I think as a consumer of sports medicine then, it was very much a question of having a doctor that was interested in sport and came along and supported you, whereas today there is a specialist qualification for those who choose that academic discipline and clinical discipline, and a qualification as a specialist sports physician. So that's been a dramatic change in upskilling of the doctors who work in this area.
And you touched on drugs in your lecture as well. What are your thoughts on that issue in the present time?
Well, I said last evening that I think drugs is the scourge of modern sport, drug misuse I should say, and I think that still stands. Over the last couple of decades we've seen a significant proliferation in the investigations into the misuse of drugs, and I think the Lance Armstrong affair highlighted how difficult it is at times to catch the cheats, but in the end they do get caught, and Lance Armstrong demonstrated that his manipulation of the rules finally caught up with him. Sadly, great athlete.
And you've looked at doctor and athlete education in terms of drug abuse. What has that involved?
Well, it really is a matter of getting the messages out to the doctors who look after the elite performers, and also the athletes themselves, to understand that good performances don't come from a bottle. Supplements and nutraceuticals and ergogenic aids are not going to make you a champion. You've got to put in the hard work and train and prepare for your sport. It's also a question of ensuring that athletes are not tempted or pressured into misusing normal standard drugs which are prescribed for clinical purposes, not for the enhancement of sports performance.
And promoting the prescription of exercise has been an area of interest as well. What are the proven benefits?
Well, I think it's fairly unequivocal now. The literature and the work, the research that's been done over the years shows that a very healthy lifestyle involves a modicum of exercise on a regular basis together with healthy eating choices, and most of these habits have their genesis in early life. And I think a lot of my colleagues at the university, and I certainly subscribe to this, have focused on paediatric sports medicine, if you like, or paediatric exercise prescription, and trying to encourage youngsters through their parents, and of course there's a huge familial issue here, but encouraging parents and children to think about taking exercise, and for kids to get outside and kick the ball around instead of sitting like mouse potatoes in front of a video unit or playing with their iPad or whatever. I think that's what some kids are missing out on today.
Yes, times have certainly changed. Is enough being done to encourage that exercise?
Well, in some areas a huge amount's being done, and I take my hat off to many of the schools who introduce exercise programs during the working day, and find that the capabilities of the children during their time at school improve dramatically. So I think there's a lot of evidence out there, a bit anecdotal, but there's a huge amount of research evidence now coming through to prove that this is what kids need. Their bodies were made to be used and not to sit around and scoff junk food and get fat and lazy.
What do you see for the future of medicine and sport?
Well, I see a huge future actually. There's a wonderful career path for young doctors who are interested in exercise prescription, young doctors who are interested in travelling with elite performers and travelling with teams and helping sport. Sport is such a very important part of our cultural fabric in New Zealand, and for me it's been an honour and a privilege to associate with many of our Olympic teams and some very high profile athletes, and I think that's a very special choice that I've been able to make as a profession, and having been an athlete myself, it's been fun being back on the other side of the fence.
Professor David Gerrard, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.